Welcome back. It's Fashion Friday here at France 24, and as always, our fashion critic Jessica Michaud is here in studio with us. Jessica, welcome in studio.
Thank you.
Now, you're just back from Singapore after an haute couture fashion show, but many of us would have thought that haute couture only rests in Paris, but not so.
Yes, exactly. Usually that is the case, but this is his second year in a row that a man named Frank Settimani has created what he calls a Fide Fashion French Couture Week. Now, Fide Fashion is the organization organizes of various fashion gatherings in Singapore. And Mr. Settimani's passion for fashion had him this time flying over 7 haute couture designers who actually do show on the official calendar here in Paris to present their latest collections to an ever-growing Asian-based haute couture customer. Now, Mr. Settimani is committed to the idea that Singapore has the potential to become Paris haute couture's center of gravity in Asia. And, you know, in fact, the event actually has quite a lot of support here in Paris. The French Fédération de la Couture's president, Mr. Didier Grumbach, flew over for the event this year.
And you were busy. You were very busy.
I was very busy. I was seeing all of the shows, absolutely. Also, there was the renowned fashion critic Suzy Menkes, who's the fashion editor of the International Herald Tribune. I was there to moderate the actual a panel, which included Didier Grumbach and Suzy Menkes, as well as the 7 designers, which included Christophe Josse, Gustave Ollins, Maurizio Galante, Julien Fournier, Alexis Mabi, Honora Tuvu, and Yichi Yang. Basically, it was to introduce the local press and fashion students who were interested in the designers, and also to talk about a little bit of the globalization of haute couture. Now, a number of the designers actually showed last year and came back because they found Asian investors, Asian clients for their haute couture. And I've spoken to a few of the designers afterwards, and they felt that it was just a great opportunity to show their collection to a new clientele and to really introduce haute couture to the Asian market. We actually have a clip here of Julien Fournier, one of the designers, talking about the reasons why he came to Singapore Haute Couture Fashion Week. So let's take a look.
It's a question of to share all over the world our idea.
Very passionate designer, no doubt. You talk about a lot of the Paris designers, but was there any local haute couture designers since it was held in Asia?
Well, that's a really good question. Well, to have the title haute couture, you actually have to work and show here in Paris, and you also have to be an invited member to the organization. But I have to say that there was a lot of local talent on display in the lead up to the French designers showing their collections. There was a night dedicated to Chinese haute couture designers like Guopei, Zava, and Torgo, as well as one that focused on Japanese designers such as Sumarta, Junko Shimada, and Yumi Katsura. So the event wasn't just about importing the West and saying that everything was fabulous in the West, but also putting a spotlight on local designers, some of which, from what I saw, really could make it here in Paris.
Now, Singapore wasn't the only place where Paris fashion has been on display lately. Another big fashion house, Chanel, chose quite an unusual destination for one of its exclusive shows, Scotland.
Yes, the Métiers d'Art show took place earlier this month in a castle in Scotland for the EIPs, which are the extremely important people.
I'm so glad you explained that to me because I really had to struggle to guess.
Yeah, they have to move it up a notch. It's not VIP, it's not good enough. So these people were fashion editors and haute couture clients who were flown in to take in one of Karl Lagerfeld's, probably one of his strongest shows to date. By the way, just a little side note, next year will mark his 30th anniversary as the designer for Chanel. But let's get back to this amazing clothing we're looking at. The show took place outside in an open wooden arcade where the rich tartans ensembles, glimmered in the shimmering bonfire and were set against the skyline. You can see a little bit of this snowflakes falling down the center courtyard there.
No expense spared.
It's gorgeous. But this is really a celebration of the different métiers that Chanel nurtures here in Paris. So the feather makers, you would see a beautiful neck piece with lots of natural colored feathers, and then you see a shot of blue in that, or you would see some amazing Lesage embroidery, or even the shoes, which were quite sturdy but also stylish.
Right.
It was a nod to the boutier, and basically Chanel supports a number of different smaller brands to help them stay in business.
Right.
Speaking of which, the reason why they actually showed in Scotland, according to Bruno Pawlowski, who's the president of Chanel Fashion, he said that knitwear is the second most important category after jackets, of course, the Chanel jacket for Chanel. And this is one of the reasons why the house rescued the Scottish brand, which is a 25-year-old brand called Barry Knitwear. Basically, the brand was going out of business, and Chanel swooped in and saved it. So that was the whole idea of bringing the show to Scotland to kind of, once again, show how Chanel's really committed to the traditional expertise and craftsmanship of these smaller houses.
Which is nice to see. Now, you intrigued me with the EPI, we have to go back to it, and I suppose fashion editors, which are always linked to them. But just in terms of the work of fashion editors, I'm sure it's a dream job, but what does their work entail?
Well, that's a question a lot of people ask, and what's great is that there's a new documentary that HBO just showed in the United States called The Editor's Eye, which basically focuses on some of the most prolific and famous fashion editors of Vogue. It's really such a treat, but honestly, even the editors themselves, you'll see in this clip we're about to show, themselves have a really hard time explaining what it is exactly they do. So let's take a little look at this clip of the movie.
Well, a fashion editor is really...
Alors, un fashion editor do a lot of work, meaning...
Not a lot. Fashion editor doesn't do very much.
Let me just think about this.
If you don't know now, I guess you never will. Haven't you spoken to everybody?
I didn't even know that they existed.
I can't answer that question. It would take too long.
It was a more intimate process half a century ago. But the fashion editor's role has remained exactly the same.
The fashion editor, seeing that everything's just right, model strikes a pose, the photographer says, hold it, and the camera clicks.
I love the honesty.
No, it's a great film, and of course, as everything with Vogue, it's done in a beautiful package. So that there is, of course, a beautiful accompanying coffee table book filled with some of the most spectacular fashion shoots ever. So that would make a beautiful Christmas gift. So I'm hoping my husband is watching this program and will take note of that.
A good hint, a good hint. Well, Jessica, before you go, you're going to talk about some fashion fixes, starting with a bag that I certainly love, Balenciaga. A name of the new designer has been announced at Balenciaga.
Yes, exactly. Something of a surprise. PPR, which owns the Balenciaga brand, announced that Alexander Wang, the American designer, known for his particularly his sporty, urban, casual style, would be replacing Nicolas Ghesquière, who basically had a cult following for his very haute couture styles for the house. But according to François-Henri Pinault, the chairman and CEO of PBR, really he was the right person for the right time for a number of reasons: his design sensibility, his street savviness, and his ability to generate a lot of buzz. Some have suggested that Pinault actually chose Wang because of the fact that Asia is such an important and growing market for luxury, and that he was trying to cash in on the fact that that Wang's family comes from Taiwan. But Pinault says that's absolutely not the case, and even hinted that maybe Wang will be doing haute couture in the future for the brand. So we'll see.
Better watch out for that. Now, Versace, also some latest designer news for us there from that fashion house.
Absolutely. For its Versus brand, which is the secondary label, which is aimed at a younger clientele, Versace severed ways with Christopher Kane, of course, amicably, they both say. But they actually turned to another young British designer, J.W. Anderson, and he will be will be the first designer to create a collaboration, a capsule collection for Versus as part of the new concept for the house, which is to have a seasonless collection, which includes both menswear, women's wear, and accessories. It won't be shown on a runway. It'll be shown at fashion events.
And we'll have to finish with something that it's all affordable for most of us anyway, H&M, and it's going green.
Yes, H&M is going green. Starting in February, H&M will give discounts to anyone who brings in old clothing into the store. There will be boxes set up by the cash register, and you can donate bags of clothes which don't have to be in good condition or have the H&M label, which is good to know.
Good to know, yeah.
In exchange, you get 15% off the item of your choice, and those clothes will be recycled and potentially make new clothing for you to buy in the future.
Well, Jessica, both of us heading to H&M, I imagine, after this shift. For more on Jessica and to follow her fashion, you can visit nowfashion.com and also follow Jessica on Twitter at Jessica Michaud. Jessica, thanks very much. Do stay tuned to France 24. We have more news coming up just shortly.